being here today. I want to, this is the normal time that our police and fire departments, public safety, offer a briefing to the public on various events going on, and I thank Chief Thompson and Chief Mayo for letting us intrude on your time today as we are talking about, unfortunately, a very critical issue facing the city of Winston-Salem and the county of Forsyth. Of course, we're talking about the hurricane that's ready to hit the coast and move inward there. Our emergency, the good thing about the fact is that we already have a very robust emergency management plan that's been in place for many, many years and is continually updated and continually worked on and practiced there. But in the last 2 days, we've had several emergency meetings of various agencies. On Monday, we had 27 agencies come together. Yesterday, we had more than 40 agencies come together, all the way from social services, from transit authority, from our 2 large hospitals and medical centers, the Colonelsville Police and Fire Departments, American Red Cross, Department of Transportation, and many, many others, to make sure that we are doing everything we can to be prepared for the storm that's coming. Key message I would have for our citizens this morning, and we'll expand on that, is be ready. Be prepared for extended power outages, be prepared for flooding and other issues that might occur. Have your emergency kit ready. And there's a great website called readynorthcarolina.org, readynorthcarolina.org. You can go on, and it gives updates on the storm as well as great information about preparing that. We'll be having a readyforsyth.org up and running. It's up now, but we're tweaking that, but I would encourage folks to go to the Ready North Carolina for right now. And by the way, I want to recognize Councilmember John Larson, who is here today from the South Ward. John, thank you for being with us this morning. I want to assure the public that the city of Winston-Salem, County of Forsyth, and our joint agencies are working hard to make sure our city is ready. For instance, our city-county utilities division has been doing work and looking at the Salem Lake Dam and updating the emergency action plans there. We placed additional staff on call. We've topped off the fuel in all of our generators, and a lot of people have been asking about water and sewer services, and generally we've never had a problem with that during the years, and I see Damon knocking on wood back there on that, but generally we can operate on substitute power for a long time, and so folks should be okay, but still be prepared, and you may want to have water on hand, particularly if you have a well with a pump in that. Our solid waste department has been, on a regular basis, when they're out collecting, we're always cleaning the storm drains, but we've made an extra effort over the past 2 days to do that, and we'll continue to do that to make sure the storm drains are clear so that the water can get moved on out there. So we're doing everything we can. We ask the public to be ready to work with us as we go forward. We'll be pushing out information from the city of Winston-Salem on the city's website, and by the way, we're live on Facebook right now, and we welcome those folks who are with us on the Facebook doing that, but stay up to date with information that we'll be putting out. It's now my pleasure to present to you our Director of Emergency Management, August Vernon, who has just been appointed to this position about a month or so ago, and so August, you got a little trial by fire coming in, so August Vernon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. Good morning. I am August Vernon, the Director of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Office of Emergency Management, and on behalf of all the public safety agencies, I would like to welcome everyone to the September Public Safety News Conference. For this month, the Office of Emergency Management is going first and will be followed by the Winston-Salem Fire Department and then the Winston-Salem Police Department. Though obviously I would ask for a little grace because the notes I had prepared last night have changed based on the new forecast, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And obviously there's a lot of interest in Hurricane Florence and the impact and our response here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. And I know you may have some questions also, and we'll address those at the end. So let me talk about where we've been, where we're at right now today, and where we're going. So obviously for the past week, we have been tracking the storm and have been in daily communications with our local and state partners. As the mayor told you, starting Monday, we started a variety of multi-agency coordination meetings and conference calls, and that's with over the 50 to 60 local, state, non-governmental, nonprofit agencies, and others that we work with. We've also been in daily communications with the National Weather Service and the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management as they plan for the entire state's response to this storm. Actually, when I leave here, we go to another National Weather Service conference call to get some of the latest information on the hurricane forecast and track. And so we're basing a lot of our planning around that forecast and those tracks. And I will say, for 5 days now, the track has changed 5 times every 24 hours. So also, while local officials have been preparing for the impacts here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, we also are fortunate to have resources here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County that have been preparing to deploy across the state to help our neighbors and other citizens. Our priority is obviously to focus and keep those resources here, but as soon as we know that we can release them, we have a variety of resources and teams that can deploy across the state and out of the state to help other communities that may be impacted by the storm. So obviously, as of this morning, the forecast and the track have changed again. And I've already heard some comments that that means we can let our guard down, and I would disagree with that. We definitely need to remain vigilant and continue to keep our defenses up and preparing for the impacts from the storm. Because again, the track could change. Also, from a citizen preparedness standpoint, we always want to recommend that citizens continue to prepare for this storm and any other future storm or event that could occur. And there's 2 or 3 really simple ways to do that. The first one is to continue to monitor your local news and the weather. And by that I mean also listen and watch what the local news and the local weather is reporting to you. Also, that'll be one means for us to put information out to the communities through our news partners. Also, we want you to prepare a disaster kit. We wanted you to prepare a disaster kit prior to this storm. We want you to prepare one now, and we'd like for you to prepare one in the future. Whether it is a power outage, a snowstorm, an ice storm, or a hurricane, or any other type of event that could impact us. And Leah Cordell from our office will talk a little bit more about that in National Preparedness Month, which that's obviously this month, and good timing. So I will say we ask the public to remain calm, work with your fellow citizens, be patient. Everyone is out trying to get their supplies and prepare for this, and we just ask that you remain calm and continue to monitor the news. We still have right now at least 24 hours before there's any type of impact, and we're really not sure what that impact looks like right now. We also encourage everyone to visit the sites that the mayor mentioned, the Ready NC and the Ready Forsyth. And from a social media standpoint, Ready Forsyth and Ready NC also have several different avenues for social media information. So I would like to go ahead and introduce the next speaker. And I think at the end of the emergency management section, we can take any questions that you have. My first speaker, I'd like to welcome Ken Anthony Bing, the Regional Director for Mobile Engagement, the Mobile Engagement Team. And I believe she does have a PowerPoint. Excuse me.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm originally from Winston-Salem, so I always enjoy getting to come back here and speak to groups and let people know a little bit about what we do. Again, my name is Kim Anthony Bing. I'm the Mobile Engagement Director with Daymark Recovery Services. Daymark is a very large behavioral health organization in many counties in North Carolina, and our service that we offer is a crisis service. We basically, I'm going to go through my presentation, but we go out to people's homes, we go to businesses, we go to physicians' offices, we go to Walmart. We'll meet anyone, anywhere that is in need of a crisis service that's struggling with a mental health disorder or substance abuse disorder or an intellectual or developmental disability disorder. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We respond out to people in the community. So I will tell you a little bit about more what we do, and I've got brochures that I can pass around in a few minutes to anybody in the office, anyone in the audience who would like one. Again, we're available around the clock. That includes weekends and holidays. We have a dispatch center that takes all of our calls, and that center is located in Concord, North Carolina. Every call that we get comes in through our dispatch center, and we respond from there. We have a clinician that's either a qualified professional or someone that's licensed, such as a licensed professional counselor or licensed mental health, licensed marriage and family therapist that will go out, or a licensed clinical social worker that will go out and meet with a person in their home and do an assessment. These are just some of the places where we respond to people at. We actually don't go to hospitals in this community, but in some of the counties that we are across North Carolina, hospitals have chosen to contract with us. And we will go in and we will see their behavioral health patients, do an assessment, help them decide, help the physicians decide if a person needs to remain under involuntary commitment or if they can be released to go home and return back to their home, and then maybe get engaged in one of our outpatient services. Anybody can request us to come out and do an evaluation. If someone's threatening to hurt themselves or others, we will go and do that. We work in conjunction with police officers and first responders in our community. We certainly don't take law enforcement with us, blanketly, but if we need them, they've always been great to respond. And we've worked very closely in Winston-Salem with EMS here, and as well as law enforcement. Some of the things that we treat or will go out and meet with the person are things such as psychosis, or they're experiencing hallucinations or delusions, really struggling with reality, life-threatening decompensation, which means they're maybe not on their medication and they're in need of some assistance that way. Non-medical altered mental status or anxiety, panic attacks, just any kind of mental illness are things that we will go out for. It's not up to us to decide as clinicians what to go out for. I've told my staff they always need to go out and respond face-to-face, no matter what a client may be struggling with. The criteria from the service definition, there is a state service definition for mobile crisis management, and the criteria is listed here. Mobile crisis criteria from the mobile crisis service definition. If a person is experiencing an acute or immediate crisis and has sufficient or limited resources or skills to cope with that situation, if they show impairment in judgment, impulse control, or cognitive or perceptual difficulties, or if they're intoxicated or in need of substance abuse treatment. And as you can imagine, with the heroin epidemic, many of the calls that we go out are for people seeking detox. We actually have also been to some homes, unfortunately, where suicides have already been committed, and we've gone to work with the families. We've met with family members and friends to try to see if they need an assessment, if they're in need of some behavioral health services, or just to kind of listen with the tragedy that they've experienced. We've actually done that in Winston-Salem probably at least 3 times over the course of the last year. Again, we go to a lot of schools, we go to a lot of community locations, doctor's offices and hospitals. We'll really go anywhere to meet with clients. We perform an assessment, and then as a part of that assessment, we look back at their legal history, we look at their mental health history, we look at the risks, we try to determine, what is needed based on their history of their mental illness. And then we determine if the person can crisis plan and stay in the community, or if they need to go to the hospital. And of course, we will always try to get people to go voluntarily as opposed to being involuntarily committed. But if the person's not willing or whatever, then we will go to the magistrate's office and seek an involuntary commitment. Our clinicians should always offer a face-to-face assessments. If any of you all call us to meet you or to go out to someone, you should never hear from our clinician, that we would do an assessment over the phone or anything like that. We only allow our clinicians to do that in inclement weather. Hurricanes, snow, ice, those would be the only reasons why we should ever assess someone from their home. We should always be going to them wherever they are. In the community, the client's condition may be emergent and require immediate pursuit of involuntary commitment. This talks about family and friends and the fact that if the person has family or friends close by, we will, seek them out. We will talk to them in an effort to gain more information, because sometimes when people are extremely intoxicated or are psychotic, they're not really able to provide the information that we need for the assessment to determine if we can help them or not. And so we'll use family members and friends to try to determine that. These resources can provide valuable information regarding the client and their current and past histories. This information often helps determine whether an involuntary commitment is needed or not. So the things that we can do for the clients in the community: provide response to first responders to help them secure crime scenes or other challenging situations, support for family members that have experienced a sudden violent death or a suicide, assess clients in the community, facilitate and/or assist with involuntary commitment, and assist CIT trained officers to deal effectively with clients who are struggling with crisis situations. And as I do with all presentations, I always give people my name and my phone number, and I'd like to do that with you all just in case that you do call us out to deal with a situation and you're not pleased with something that our staff do. Hopefully that will not be the case, but I always like to make sure everybody has my phone number, and it is 704-591-2702, and you are welcome to call me. I keep my information. My phone is my alarm at night. It's always on my nightstand, and I take call a lot at night, so there is no day or hour that you can't call me out of concern if there's some situation that you have questions about. And I'd be happy to take questions if you all have any. Does anyone have any questions on anything that I've reviewed? Again, I do have brochures, and it's got the number that you can reach us in here. Again, our number, all of our calls go into our dispatch center, and then they call our clinicians. Once they get a phone call from a client in need of something or a family member, they call us, and then we are to head immediately to that call. We do have the state allows us a 2-hour response time, which I know for those of you that are first responders is a long time. It's not our goal for it to ever take 2 hours. That's what we are allowed, but our clinicians know that they need to head out as soon as they get the call, and they should call you all and let you know, okay, I'm on my way. And they should also call the client as well and say, I'm on my way, and this is about the time that I'll be to you, wherever you are. Any questions about anything? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to serve you and to be here. I'll just leave those with you. Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Next up, I would like to invite Leah Cordell, our coordinator, our logistics officer with the Office of Emergency Management, and she's going to talk about the National Preparedness Month.
Good morning. September is National Preparedness Month again, and this is the theme. Disasters happen, prepare now and learn how. This is something that we do every year, and we always encourage people to be prepared and make sure that they are prepared when disasters happen, like we're potentially getting ready to have here in the next 24 hours. So there's 3 things that we always encourage people to do is make a plan for what you will do in the case of emergency. Make an emergency kit for 3 days. We actually encourage you to do 7 days, just in case the power is out for a long period of time. And then also stay informed by things that can happen. That would be through social media and the news stations, etc. So the first thing is to make a plan. You need to make sure that your family knows how to get to a safe place. They need to know how to contact each other in the event of a disaster and how you will get back together afterwards. And we also encourage people to have an outside of state contact. So if you're displaced from your home and you can't contact them immediately, you can contact somebody in Oklahoma or Ohio or somewhere that hasn't been affected by the disaster, and you could just let them know that you're okay, and they could be your central point for communication. So The next thing is to build a kit. Everybody needs to have a disaster preparedness kit. It needs to be able to move with you in case you need to evacuate your house or if you need to stay put in your house. And some of the things that we encourage people to put in their disaster preparedness kit is water is the first thing. We encourage people to have 1 gallon of water per person per day. And before we said at least 3 days, we encourage 7 days supply for all these supplies. The next would be food. You need to have food that doesn't have to be refrigerated or cooked, preferably, because you may not have electricity. You can do things like granola bars, protein bars, beef jerky, different canned meats, canned fruit, things that have a long shelf life and it don't have to be refrigerated. Also, with tools and supplies, always pack extra clothes. You need to have one for the winter and one for the summer. Extra shoes and socks, battery-operated emergency weather radios, extra batteries, a mess kit, flashlights, whistles, plastic sheeting. Always keep cash because in the event of the power goes out, you won't be able to go to the ATM, so make sure you have cash. I've heard quite a few people encourage you to have like $200 in $1 bills rather than a bunch of 20s, so that way you don't have to make change if a store that has lost power is actually open. Toilet paper, towelettes, soap, any personal hygiene items. Don't forget your manual can openers, because you won't be able to use your electric can opener. Always have a fire extinguisher, plastic bucket with a tight lid, matches in a waterproof container, disinfectant, bleach, and also keep your personal papers together, such as your insurance information, your credit card information, all your important numbers that you would need to know. Make sure they're all in one location so you're not having to scramble to find them if you need to evacuate. Also, don't forget about the special items. If you have infants, don't forget their diapers, formula, any type of medication. If you have adults, don't forget prescription drugs, medical supplies, and also don't forget your pets. The pets need the same preparedness kits as you do. They need the food, the water, the collars, bed-in leashes, and you need to have entertainment for both your family and your animals. Make sure you have, or your family have books and games to keep them occupied during times when they don't have access to the computer or electricity, and also make sure your pets have toys and entertainment so you're not bored during a disaster. So the third thing is stay informed. You can stay informed by purchasing a NOAA weather radio. Make sure you have batteries. It'll go off in the middle of the night if something happens. Most mobile phones also have the emergency notifications on your phones. You can download different apps. You could, and also the emergency alert system. Forsyth County and the city of Winston-Salem both have, we'll go to Ready NC. Ready NC actually is the app that we were talking about before. It's a great free app that you can download from the state emergency management. You get information such as current weather conditions, real-time traffic conditions, power outages, open shelters, lists of hazards, lists of emergency things that you can put in your emergency preparedness kit, and also it has plans that you can print out for your plans for your contact information. Also, it does real-time stream and river flooding information, so it's a really great app that you can find information across, not only locally, but across the state of North Carolina. Locally, we have the if you go to both the city homepage and the county's homepage, the city has the citizen information or citizen notification system. It should be on the top right-hand side of the homepage. And the county actually has the code red. We encourage all citizens in the city and the county to sign up for both of those. That way you're notified of local notifications that we have throughout Forsyth County. It's too late right now for you to purchase flood insurance for this upcoming event, but we always encourage people to purchase flood insurance because, of course, your normal homeowner's insurance does not cover any type of flooding. It also takes 30 days to take effect. So you can go to floodsmart.gov and get some information about getting flood insurance, or you can call the National Flood Insurance Program Help Center at 1-800-427-4661. So the next storm you can have flood insurance. Hopefully you've already signed up, but even if you don't live in a floodplain or a flood-prone area, it is important to have flood insurance. Everybody needs to have flood insurance because if we get 30 inches of rain, there's going to be a lot of people that's flooded. So, and your homeowner's insurance isn't going to cover that. And in conjunction with National Preparedness Month on September 20th at 2:20 p.m., they're going to be doing a national wireless emergency alert test. So all your mobile devices should go off at 2:20 on September 20th, so be prepared for that. And also you can go to Ready for Scythe, which is our local, we've got our web page, and we also have a Facebook page that you can like. You can get normal updated notifications of what's going on. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, I'll turn it over to August.
Thank you, Leah. Next up, and I know there may be a lot of questions, so this is good timing, is Keith Huff, the Director of Traffic Operations.
Yeah, good morning, all. Again, my name is Keith Huff. I'm with Traffic Field Operations, and this has been touched on by a couple of folks previously, but Traffic Field Operations, just to back up, that encompasses your city street maintenance, it encompasses your drainage maintenance, and then your traffic signs, signals, and markings. So that's what we are focusing on ahead of the storm, whatever weather we might get. Going through a laundry list of items that we're touching on: culvert cleaning and maintenance of inlets leading up to the event, leading into the event, and then after the event, whatever we get, that's a priority for us to make sure that the culverts, the inlets are operating at their maximum capacity. We encourage all citizens, if they do see leaves and stuff over their drains in the front of their house, to go ahead and scrape those off. We want that system running at peak effectiveness when we get any kind of weather. We hope it's for the minimum, but again, if they see anything that they can go ahead and grab, if we're not getting it, haven't got to it yet, go ahead and clear those inlets, clear those pipes, make sure they're free and unobstructed. During the event, we will also be cleaning and unobstructed roadways and whatnots. We will be getting those inlets and whatnot that are covered with debris, working with our operations team to get those free and clear and moving to traffic again. As far as city streets projects right now, we have ceased all city street projects, road cuts that the city has, pipe drainage projects. We have plated those for the most part. We have removed the signage for the most part because we want to recover all type 3 barricades, barrels. Cones are not really effective in these situations, so those larger traffic control elements, so that we have the resources to post flooded areas, low-lying streets, whatnot, that may get overtaken with water. As far as traffic field operations goes, when the storm gets here, whatever form it might be, we will be operating 2 12-hour shifts, day and night, similar to our snow activities. Our snow room will be open, and it will be staffed 24 hours of the day. Our traffic signal technicians, they are tending our city signal systems. They're trying to batten those signals down, make sure they're fully operational, and we're working with our Winston-Salem DOT staff to make sure that we're coordinating from a field and a in-signal or in-house management standpoint. So quick briefing on our end, and happy to entertain any questions.
Keith, Jeff Amron from WSI. How many people do you have out on the streets right now, cleaning gutters, getting stuff ready?
There are 4 crews right now rotating through the city. We have 2 jet Vector trucks, and then we have 2 crew trucks that are cleaning inlets, cleaning culverts, and other areas. So to answer your question, 4 different crews. Ma'am.
A lot of construction is happening and large construction equipment is out. In coordinating with the DOT, what's going to happen to that during the storm?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're trying to recover all of that equipment from construction sites, get those construction sites battened down. If we have a street cut, we want to plate it up, get it safed up before any weather gets here. It's also a road integrity issue, so getting those projects safed up, that equipment withdrawn so that they're available to respond to emergencies, that's been our priority. Ma'am.
The areas in the city that are more prone to flooding?
Yes, there is a list out. Fire has it, and we have it. There are 24 sites in the city. For example, Bethania Station Road, Renolda Road, Shadowlawn Drive. That's just a couple of examples, but we have 24 low-lying areas that involve public roads or what we call primary or secondaries that we have on our radar, and we'll have barricades, type 3s, that we can blockade those off if need be.
Have access to that list?
Yes, sure. I've got the list right here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry. The question for those that may not be able to hear, thank you, Ed, I appreciate you keeping me on track, is do we have a list of low-lying areas, city streets, city roads that we keep on hand that we're ready to respond to and close? And the answer to that is yes, we definitely do. There's 24 throughout the city, and we're recovering our traffic equipment to be able to barricade those roads as need be. Got it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions reference hurricane planning and preparedness and response. And also at the end, after the other speakers, we can also take any other questions that come up. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Guy Gardner with me too. Any word on the FEMA shelter happening at the Joel? Do you have any information about that you can share with us?
Okay, good question about the sheltering operation at the LJVM Coliseum. What I would say when the state and locals go into a disaster mode, information is changing very rapidly, and we were notified of a possible opening last night, and they're opening dozens of shelters around the state. So I'll clarify, it's not a FEMA shelter, it would be a state of North Carolina shelter. And this is pretty routine, but normally these shelters for coastal evacuations do not come this far west. There is a whole plan for coastal evacuations, and that normally ends about Raleigh-Durham. But as for the past few days, as Raleigh-Durham was going to be receiving a serious impact, they started looking for help, and we certainly wanted to offer the help. It's just a lot of moving parts and pieces. So right now I will say there will be a shelter opening at LJVM this evening for those that are evacuating from the coast. We don't have numbers yet. That information is still changing. All this is very fluid. So I think that's about the only thing I could really say that I know for certain. Those communications and discussions will continue through the day. Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
just a concerned citizen from Solid Rock Missionary Baptist Church, myself and my pastor here this morning. Question, you said about the personnel that's coming from the outlying shores where we come into the Coliseum possibly. What about the personnel that's already living in Forsyth County, Winston-Salem areas? What are the areas that they should be going to if they need housing? I didn't get a chance to attend the other meetings they had with other agencies, but what are the designated areas that the personnel can go in case their home is destroyed for whatever reason, rain or could be flooding or wind or whatever the case might be? Do they have a listing of designated areas for people throughout the Winston-Salem area where they should go?
Okay, so the question was, what are we doing for the citizens of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County when it comes to sheltering? This far before a storm, we're not gonna make a list of locations because we really don't know what the impact is. We could generate a list and those areas could be the worst hit by the floods. What I would say right now, and again, this is all changing every 12 and 24 hours, part of our agreement to open a shelter, because it does take a lot of local resources, even some of the agencies you see in here and the others are partners in the community to run a shelter. We also have the agreement that if we need to, citizens of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County will be able to come to the shelter, this emergency shelter. But again, I'm hesitant to give any more direction than that because we just don't know. Everything I'm telling you now could change at our 11:30 weather briefing. But typically, once we have an idea of what's going to happen, you have to remember the storm hasn't even made landfall yet. And it typically will change when it makes landfall. So we are preparing for if we have to continue or grow those type of operations.
Are there any specific requirements for shelters? If someone opens up the doors, is there?
Yes, and that would be a lengthier conversation with the American Red Cross and some of the other partners. And certainly I would be glad after this to maybe connect you because churches are a valuable partner in some of these type of events.
Is there a main number you can call so we can branch out from that, network out from that? Because and just like you're saying, the adjustments are made hour to hour and everything changes. But whether it changes or not, is there a central location, a central number he or she can call to get that type of information that your agency would be able to provide?
So I would point you to the Ready Forsyth site, and there is an email on there that will come to our office. And if we start to make those kind of decisions, we would certainly put that information out officially through press release, through this group in here.
Your organization will be the one that's operating the shelter, though.
We will not be operating the shelter. We will be doing that in conjunction with the State Division of Emergency Management. Entities such as the American Red Cross, Department of Social Services, some other nonprofit organizations, it actually takes a lot of organizations to do that. We are supporting the state in their response to the hurricane. And we're glad to do that to help the communities that are really going to be impacted by this. Those evacuations actually started yesterday. As you saw, some coastal areas did mandatory evacuations, and some of those bridges and roads are closing today. So a lot of that surge of people are coming this way, and it's hard to know what that number will look like yet.
As far as the response locally, I know some agencies said that they're gonna have crews, picking up 12-hour shifts. Is that something that will happen within your department, or will an EOC be opened up, or are you just kind of waiting at this point?
Okay, good question. So the question is how the Office of Emergency Management is going to respond to this. Number one, the emergency management, right now, we're usually in what's called daily operations, and we have someone on call 24/7, 365, depending on what's going on. The past few days, we have been what's called monitoring status, which is a lot more of the agencies you see together. We've typically been doing about 12, 14-hour days. If we decide to open an emergency operations center, and we're not yet to that point, though it is on the table and we have discussed it, that is where we will go to 24/7 operations for the next few days, depending again on what the storm's going to look like. And the emergency operations center is visualize that room where all the agencies we've talked about that the mayor mentioned earlier all of us together in the same location, working immediately to address problems as they arrive and plan for the next 12 hours. Right now, what we're doing in the monitoring status is more than sufficient for what's going on right now. Yes, sir.
These shelters, are there any services being coordinated for senior citizens or people that would have trouble accessing those sites?
Once the shelter officially opens, that type of information will come out. I've already had questions about elderly parents, children, pets, anything else like that. All that is going to be addressed when that information comes out. Any other questions right now? Again, we can also take questions at the end, and certainly we'll stay around afterward to take questions. Just two other little bits of information we want to let you know is the city's CityLink is going to 24/7 operations that will be able to take questions from the citizens in the community. And again, that number is 311 or 727-8000, 311 or 727-8000. And also, all the greenways in the city are now closed also. So just FYI. I believe today. I'm not sure specific time, but that'll be happening today. If no other questions right now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the Winston-Salem Fire Department Chief, Trey Mayo.
Good morning, I'm Trey Mayo. I'm the fire chief for the city of Winston-Salem. I'll give a special welcome to Mayor Joines and Councilmember Larson. We appreciate you all being here with us today, as well as members from the City Manager Lee Garrity's office, and some of his staff are here. For the month of September, the fire department has 2 line of duty deaths to remember. Fire Chief William Hobson was a 26-year veteran of the department when he suffered a heart attack and died on duty on September 15th, 1938 at Fire Station 2. At that time, Fire Station 2 was located on Liberty Street. Chief Hobson was well known as a firefighter's fire chief, having begun his career with the department in 1912 and rising through the ranks before being appointed as fire chief. James Buck Bashirs was a 27-year veteran of the department when he died on September 30th, 1986. Buck was assigned to Engine 10, and he was at Salem Lake performing a pump test when he suffered a stroke and died on duty. Please pause with me briefly, if you will, to remember these fallen firefighters. Thank you. The fire department's lineup today includes fire investigator Rick McIntyre and fire and life safety educator Sabrina Stowe. Rick is going to discuss hydrant violations, and Sabrina will provide information about the Dixie Classic Fair, and she's also going to address National Preparedness Month, but from a fire department perspective. Before they come up, I wanted to take a few minutes to bring everyone up to speed on what the fire department, what actions the department has taken ahead of Hurricane Florence. So our technical rescue teams began their storm preparation last week with readiness checks by assembling equipment resources at our rescue operations base. That's at Fire Station 7 on Arbor Road. And, you know, I'll tell you what I like to tell others. The fire department is not in the business of getting ready. We're in the business of being ready. But we do go through additional readiness checks, and we do move some equipment around in anticipation of an event like Hurricane Florence. Today, crews will be canvassing areas that Director Huff referred to. We have the historical areas where urban flooding has been experienced in the past, and our operations branch crews will be out today canvassing those areas to encourage business owners, residential occupants to seek higher ground, move vehicles out of flood-prone areas, stay with friends or family if that's an option, and avoid hazards such as standing water, downed trees, power lines, and damaged structures. We do have this is the full-size version, but we have a door hanger version of this, English on one side, Spanish on the other, giving that encouragement before, during, and after the flood, contact information, that sort of thing. And that's what our crews will be distributing today to residents in those historically flood-prone areas. At noon tomorrow, that'll be Thursday, we will have 2 Type 3 water rescue teams online and a Type 1 water team. Type 3 teams are 4-person teams. A Type 1 team is a 14-person team. They have available to them 6 boats, a rescue raft, and a cache of specialty equipment. We'll also bring online 3 additional pumpers, a mini pumper, a breathing air resource unit, and 2 4-wheel drive light vehicles. All heavy apparatus will be brought up to a full staff, that's 4 personnel, and the light vehicles will be staffed with 2 personnel. So on a normal day in Winston-Salem, we'd have about 90 personnel working, but beginning at noon tomorrow through the time where we determine that Florence's winds and water are no longer a threat, we'll have about 135 personnel on duty. After the storm goes by and we are sure that Winston-Salem and Forsyth County are no longer in harm's way, we make that Type 1 14-person water rescue team, we make them available for deployment to other areas where flooding is still going on and there still remains a threat to life. Are there any questions for me from the fire department's perspective in terms of Hurricane Florence preparedness before I step away from the podium?
Jeff Mariner, WSI, we're not expecting to send anyone to pre-deploy. Some other fire departments are sending people pre-deploying. No one from your department is pre-deploying.
That's right. We don't deploy from here until we are certain that those resources are not needed in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. There are teams coming from New York, New Jersey, Arizona, Texas, California, 2 from Indiana, 1 from Ohio, 1 from Missouri. Those teams have come in. Matter of fact, one from Indiana spent the night here last night. Those teams have come in, but we do not relocate our resources until we're certain they're not required here.
Did I understand correctly when you were saying that you guys are going to be canvassing those low-lying areas, or if people are needing assistance, can they reach out to you guys, or how's that process going?
So the question is specifics about our canvassing operation and how do people reach out. So the canvassing that we'll be doing today with the door hangers will be in the areas that we know are historically prone to urban flooding, and there is contact information on those door hangers. But of course, in the event of a true emergency that's a threat to life, people need to dial 911. Are there other questions for the fire department? Okay. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at City of WS Fire. You'll get updates on fire department operations there, still picture and video of operations that are going on. So that'll help, particularly you folks in the news media. You'll be able to capture that footage from our Twitter feed, and you won't have to thin your crews out so much trying to chase us down wherever we're operating around the city. Rick?
Thank you, Chief. Rick McIntyre, fire investigator with the Fire and Life Safety Division. Something that I want to talk with you for a few minutes this morning about is something that most people drive by every day, walk by every day, and usually don't give them a second thought. And these are our fire hydrants, which are a very critical part of our emergency operations. Gotta find a button. Right. And because they are vital to our operations, there are regulations that affect fire hydrants and the area around fire hydrants. In the North Carolina Fire Code, there are regulations that require that we have unobstructed access to fire hydrants at all times. We have to have that immediate access in order to get to these fire hydrants. So what the regulations require is a 3-foot clearance around all fire hydrants. 3 foot on all sides, front, back, and both sides. And where there might be physical damage or subject to an impact by a motor vehicle, then guard posts are also required around a fire hydrant to protect it from impact. I'm going to show you some examples of some obstructed fire hydrants here in the slide. Overgrown vegetation is a continuing challenge for us. It's a common problem we have. This particular hydrant, as you can see, it's obstructed by vegetation. It's hard to see when firefighters are looking for the nearest hydrant to an emergency. This is going to be a challenge. The tree limbs over the top of this fire hydrant, this is a reminder to cut trees and bushes back away from fire hydrants. This hydrant, as you can see, someone has basically built up a mulch bed, flower bed around this hydrant, and now the hydrant is, only half of the fire hydrant is above the ground. And the outlets are actually at ground level, which is going to make it very difficult for firefighters to connect hoses to this hydrant and use it, especially in a expedient manner. You see a fire hydrant in this slide? There's a nice bush, nice azalea bush, but it's hiding a fire hydrant, and just to the, if you look very closely to the left, you might be able to see a little bit of a yellow fire hydrant behind this azalea bush. Bush was planted next to the hydrant, and of course it's completely hiding that hydrant from view. Firefighters will not be able to spot this hydrant when they're coming to your emergency. We also have, in addition to vegetation issues, we also have some issues where additional building and decorative fencing is done. And this particular one is an example where decorative fencing was installed within 1 foot, about a foot of this hydrant, which then does not allow the firefighters to effectively connect hoses and operate that hydrant. So we have situations like this. Fortunately, this one was corrected with some collaborative efforts between the fire department and utilities and vegetation management. So we can work through these when we find them. We're just trying to avoid those from happening to start with. Here is one where a wall and fence was built less than a foot away from the hydrant, which causes the firefighters to difficulties when they're trying to operate this hydrant with obstruction this close. There are other obstructions that we find. There's an electrical lamp post about 6 inches from this fire hydrant. If this hydrant was needed, that electrical device is going to be a problem for the firefighters to work around. So we want to keep that 3-foot clear space around all fire hydrants so that they can be effectively used. So here's a great example of a fence being put up, and the hydrant's on one side of the fence, the street's on the other side of the fence. Okay, the street is on the other side of this solid wooden fence, which was erected without a permit, and the hydrant is completely hidden and prevents access to the hydrant. Not a good situation. We worked through this after we found it, but because the erection of the fence was done without permits. We did not know before that the hydrant was going to be blocked. Hydrants, fire hydrants in this city and in all cities are painted certain colors, and those colors are important to the fire department. They tell us capabilities of the fire hydrant, the capacity of the water, the available water, and so forth. So when residents or others paint hydrants to match their decor, match their house, that causes a lot of confusion for the fire department. They also sometimes become works of art, and that really confuses us. We don't know, we're not understanding what's going on with those. They disguise the fire hydrants. In that middle slide, you know, which is the real fire hydrant? So I said that the colors are important to us because they tell us how much water a fire hydrant can deliver. And the caps or the tops, we painted a certain color: green, blue, orange, red. The body of the hydrant will be yellow, and when it's yellow, that indicates that it's a city-owned hydrant versus a private hydrant. So let's let the city folks, the fire department and utilities, do the painting on hydrants. We'll take care of that. Sometimes fire hydrants are also used for construction projects. If there's a construction project going on, there'll be a meter that's been put on by the utilities, and that's approved, and that's the proper way to utilize water from a fire hydrant. So if you have a need for that, contact the utilities department, or you can go through CityLink, and they'll make the arrangements for you. So if you are cleaning up your property after a storm, please don't pile limbs and debris next to the fire hydrant. You know, we have over 11,000 fire hydrants in this city, but the one that's most important is the one that's in front of your home or in front of your business. So as you clean up, if you need to clean up, please keep them clear and accessible for us. We need them. That's all I have. I'm going to ask Ms. Sabrina Stowe to come up, our senior fire and life safety educator. Ms. Sabrina.
Good morning, Sabrina Stowe with Fire and Life Safety Division for the Winston-Salem Fire Department. Today I'm just going to bring you a few updates of things that we're going to have coming up fairly soon. The Dixie Classic Fair is one of our biggest fire and life safety events. We're going to be there all 9 days. We put together a safety town, which is going to be located right near the gate number 2 entrance. It is a free activity course that we provide for kids, but we also provide a lot of resourceful information for the adults and parents. We're also going to be unveiling a new fire safety inflatable house that we're going to have out there this year. It was afforded to us by a grant that we received from the Hartford insurance company, and we want to make sure that you all are aware that we're going to have that out there, and we'll give you some more information about that coming up soon. We'll also have information and sign-up sheets for residents of Winston-Salem to receive smoke alarms and the stovetop fire suppression devices that we're always talking about here. The city has continued our smoke alarm program, so we're going to make sure that we do have working smoke alarms in the homes of every citizen in this city that needs them. We'll also have the enlargement show. It's one of the shows that is put on by one of our neighboring fire departments. We always do that on the school day, which will be on that Monday, October 1st. There'll be 2 shows, one at 9:30 and one at 11. We also want to talk about some national preparedness things. In light of September being National Preparedness Month, we've heard from emergency management on the natural disasters that you need to be prepared for, but there are some day-to-day things that you also need to be prepared for, and we'd like to talk about those as well. We continue to talk about smoke alarms. That is always the first line of defense for fire. You need to hear that alarm. You need to be able to get out of your home. You need to make sure that you have those in the correct places in your home,
That would be one in every bedroom or any room that someone sleeps in on a regular basis. There also needs to be one outside of the sleeping area, and there needs to be one on each level of your home. Those need to be tested each month. If you don't know how to do that, contact us and we will assist you with that. And after 10 years, your smoke alarms need to be replaced. We also want to encourage you to get the stovetop fire suppression devices. Those are going to be very beneficial if there's any type of fire on your cooktop. We do still have those available. There is no cost to city residents to receive those. Please contact us. These are some examples of how they work. And as you can see, once that device deploys, it's going to be a huge difference in the damage that you may suffer in the event of a fire. Other things we want to talk about as far as preparedness with this storm, a lot of people will look to get generators. Want to make sure that you understand how those work, that you're making sure that you're placing them in the correct place. Always going to definitely look at the manufacturer's operating instructions to use those, but you definitely want to make sure that you're placing those in well-ventilated areas, away from any doors, windows, or any vent openings. Also, you want to make sure that you don't put those in an enclosed environment. A lot of people tend to put them in their attached garage. You do not want to do that. Also want to make sure that you have carbon monoxide alarms in your home in the event that you do get fumes from that generator. You want to be made aware of that because, of course, that is a deadly gas. Turn off the generator, let it cool down before you refuel it. Never refuel it while it's still hot. Other preparedness tips from the fire department standpoint, always make sure that you have a fire escape plan. You want to practice that plan with your family at least twice a year. You want to do it once in the daytime, once at night. Things look differently when it's dark. Fire department personnel, we're used to that. When they go in, smoke environment, it's dark. That's not something that you're going to be prepared for. So go ahead and make that plan and practice it. Also want to practice that when you have other people in your home that are not normally there. If you have kids, you have a sleepover, those children are not familiar with your plan. So you want to always make sure that you make anyone in your home aware of that plan and practice that plan with them. Also, you want to, with the technology age, download these texting apps that will help families keep in touch. You know, when pandemonium sets in, you may not know where the other person is. Utilize those smart devices to keep up with everyone in the event or after the event of an emergency. Other things you may want to consider as far as preparedness is taking a hands-only CPR class. This is going to be a compression-only training. Learn how to use an AED. These are things that we have classes on that are available to our residents at no cost. Also learning how to use a fire extinguisher. We do make arrangements for those as well. Another thing we like to reiterate is learning how to do stop, drop, and roll. It's one of those things that we think we only need to teach kids in the event of a fire. We're also finding that that's something that we need to re-educate our seniors on. As you get older, your limitations are different. You need to know how your body is going to respond at every stage of your life. So make sure that you are familiar with that, and we can teach that as well. Be prepared for flooding. The emergency management folks mentioned this as well. Make sure that you have the appropriate insurance, know where that policy is, and the contact information that you need in the event the storm happens. Just want to speak again about the classes that we do make available. You can schedule classes for hands-only CPR and also for fire extinguisher training by going to our request form at cityofws.org/fire program. Does anyone have any questions for me or any of our fire department personnel? Again, follow us on Twitter and also on Facebook at City of WS Fire. Next, we will have someone speaking from our police department, the Fire Chief Katrina Thompson. Thank you. I'm sorry. I want everybody to be fire.
Thank you, Ms. Stowe. Good morning, Mayor Joines, Councilmember Larson, City Manager Garrity, and members of his office. I'm Police Chief Katrina Thompson, and on behalf of the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department, I too would like to welcome you to the September 2018 Public Safety News Conference. Please join me in honoring our fallen officer for the month of September who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Patrolman Al Charles Kennard. Patrolman Kennard was killed on September 9th, 1961 in a motorcycle accident at 4th Street and Highland Avenue while he was on patrol. The motorcycle left the roadway and struck a curb and a light pole, killing him instantly. Patrolman Kennard's death led to new rules mandating helmets. He had been with the Winston-Salem Police Department for 12 years. Now please join me in a moment of silence for remembering Patrolman Al Kennard, as well as all the women and men across our country who paid the ultimate sacrifice, including those who lost their lives 17 years ago during the 9/11 tragedy. Thank you. As always, I'd like to thank the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department for risking their lives and for all the great work that they do on a daily basis. Thank you. Some of our upcoming events. The Winston-Salem Police Foundation Movie Night, scheduled for this Saturday evening, September 15th, has been postponed due to the expected severe weather. The new date will be Sunday, October 28th, and additional information will be available as the time gets closer. Again, movie night for this Saturday, September 15th, has been postponed due to the weather, and further information will be forthcoming. The new date is October 28th. National Forensic Science Week will be September 16th through September 22nd, 2018. Again, the Dixie Classic Fair begins Friday, September 28th, and will run through October 8th. Before I introduce the remaining lineup from the Winston-Salem Police Department, I want to remind everyone that we, the WSPD, are conducting normal operations at this time with all equipment being operational. We're currently operating on a normal 10.5-hour shifts, but we are prepared to adjust as necessary. We have partnered with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Emergency Management to provide security at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Shelter, Coliseum Shelter, once the shelter is opened. Next up from the Winston-Salem Police Department will be Lieutenant Eric Montgomery, who will provide information on our unsolved homicide, followed by Forensic Services Squad Supervisor Tanya Joyce, who will discuss National Forensic Science Week. And she will be followed by Lieutenant A.J. Santos, who will discuss requirements and safety for charitable solicitors. Lieutenant Montgomery.
My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm currently assigned as a lieutenant in our Criminal Investigations Division. Very briefly, the police department, in conjunction with the City of Winston-Salem's Marketing and Communications Department, have produced a video to bring attention to an unsolved homicide that we're still investigating. So I'll present this video now.
On the evening of Tuesday, July 18th, 2017, a coworker went to Jack Atkins' apartment at 133 Columbine Drive. Atkins had not shown up for a meeting the day before and was not answering his phone. She found his body lying inside the apartment and called 911. He had been stabbed to death.
Because when you walked in the apartment, his apartment was clean, pristine, everything was in place. There was one little small table that had a few items knocked over and laying some change or something like that laying on the floor, but just that was the only signs of a small disturbance.
Atkins, 66, made his living buying old homes and fixing them up for resale. He often hired folks who needed a helping hand to turn their lives around.
He was a generous, kind person. He loved helping people. He helped friends, family, even people that he didn't know. So he wanted, people to be the best person that they could be. And he would help them by showing them how to paint, how to do construction, and things like that. And, how to get off alcohol and drugs as well.
Several days after Atkins was killed, someone used his ATM card in Lexington and Moxville. Police have photos of the person but have not been able to identify him.
This person is definitely a subject of interest, but we can't definitely say that he is a suspect in the murder of Jack based on the timeline of when Jack's last known communication with somebody was and when he was found deceased in his apartment, being approximately 2 days. And it's not uncommon sometimes, if somebody did steal his wallet during their interaction, discarded this wallet, could have been picked up by somebody, or the person who took the wallet could have just given his wallet to somebody else. So there's a lot of unknowns with what happened to the wallet in this 48-hour period.
Police have examined Atkins' apartment and his vehicle, but have found nothing to indicate a motive for his death.
We definitely don't think robbery is the motive. The only thing that was found to be missing from the apartment was his wallet. His cell phone was still there. TV was still there. It didn't look like anything was tampered with inside the apartment to make it look like it was a robbery of any kind.
I can't imagine why anybody would want to hurt him, because he was very well liked. I didn't know of anyone that didn't like him or had any problems with him at all. So I have no clue who would want to do that to him.
Investigating this case, I have not interviewed or spoke with anybody who had one bad word to say about Jack. My understanding with Jack is he's always been the kind of guy who's done a lot of things for his community and helped anybody out when he was able to, which he done a lot of, and I verified this through talking to many people that he did help out. And that's why we're just asking anybody who has any information about this case to please come forward.
Put yourself in my position and my family's position. If you didn't know who killed your father, you would want someone to reach out, and so that we can solve this case and so that we can get a murderer off the streets. To me, it's hard to live with not knowing why the person killed your father, not knowing who killed him, and just, living with that and trying to deal with it. It's hard.
If you or anyone you know has knowledge about the death of Jack Atkins, please contact Crime Stoppers at 336-727-2800 or on Facebook at Crime Stoppers of Winston-Salem. You do not have to give your name. If your information leads to an arrest, you could be eligible for a reward of up to $5,000.
Mentioned, this video will be on YouTube. You can search Winston-Salem Unsolved Homicide, Jack Atkins. If you have any information about this case, we'll ask that you call the police department. Our non-emergency number is 336-773-7700. You can call Crime Stoppers at 336-727-2800, or you can reach out to us at Crime Stoppers of Winston-Salem on Facebook. Next, I'll introduce our Forensic Services Squad Supervisor, Tanya Joyce.
Okay. Thank you and good morning. I'm going to talk about National Forensic Science Week, which is September 16th through the 23rd. We would like to take this time to recognize and commend the Forensics Services Division, Criminal Investigations Division's Computer Forensics Unit, and the NMS Labs for their outstanding performance, contributions, and commitment to excellence during the last year. In recognition of the critical role that forensic science plays in the investigation of crimes throughout the country, from exonerating the innocent to identifying the guilty, many organizations are proud to recognize these professionals that serve in this vital role. the International Association of Chiefs of Police, along with the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the Association of State Criminal Investigative Agencies, the Major County Sheriff's Association, and the Consortium of Forensic Science Organizations are proud to recognize the significant contribution of forensic science professionals in the cause of justice throughout the country. From crime scene processing to fingerprints to firearms comparison to DNA analysis to digital forensics to laboratory analyses, forensics professionals provide law enforcement with reliable investigative leads that greatly contribute to solving and preventing crime. Personnel of the Winston-Salem Police Department's Forensic Services Division provide services 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Forensic Services Division is an accredited inspection laboratory in the forensics disciplines of crime scene investigation and firearms and tool marks. The division provides forensic services to the Winston-Salem Police Department, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Winston-Salem and Forsyth County Fire Departments, North Carolina State Highway Patrol, and various other nearby law enforcement agencies. Personnel of the Forensic Services Division also perform breath and blood tests for suspected impaired drivers and providing fingerprinting, photographing, and collection of DNA from arrestees at the Forsyth County Law Enforcement Detention Center Police Processing Unit. Personnel of the Computer Forensics Unit of the Criminal Investigations Divisions are responsible for examining digital media in a forensically sound manner with the aim of identifying, preserving, recovering, and analyzing digital evidence. In many cases, digital evidence has been the key to establishing and investigating leads, arrests, and convictions. During this year alone, personnel with the Computer Forensics Unit have worked hand in hand with investigators to link crimes, evidence, scenes, and persons to aid in investigations of countless crimes. During 2017, this unit spent well over 1,000 hours processing examination requests of computers and mobile phones related to over 237 criminal investigations, in addition to requests to retrieve surveillance recordings from businesses and residences. Since October 2012, the Winston-Salem Police Department has been a member of the North Carolina Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. This is known as ICAC. This task force consists of numerous law enforcement agencies that work closely with the State Bureau of Investigations, as well as federal authorities in the suppression and prosecution of the online sexual exploitation of children. In May 2016, the Criminal Investigations Division dedicated an ICAC office to enhance its ability to conduct these sensitive investigations. As members of the ICAC task force, these assigned detectives are responsible for not only conducting investigations that are reported to the agency, but also initiating investigations that target individuals who participate in the manufacture, distribution, and electronic downloading of viewing of child pornography. Additionally, the ICAC unit investigates cyber tips received via the SBI from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In 2014, the City of Winston-Salem contracted services with the NMS Labs. This on-site outsourced accredited laboratory set up laboratory operations and began analyzing blood alcohol test kits and solid drugs in 2015 of August. Toxicology testing is performed in the home laboratory, which is located in Pennsylvania. NMS Labs has performed hundreds of blood alcohol tests and drug identifications that have greatly increased our efficiency and effectiveness as law enforcement and agency has enabled cases to be expedited in court. The department also utilizes the service of NMS Labs in Pennsylvania in major cold cases and investigations which are grant funded, as well as current cases where timely DNA analysis is critical. Again, thank you to the professionals that provide forensic services and support the provision of law enforcement services. Are there any questions? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant A.J. Santos.
Good morning. Again, I'm Lieutenant Sanchez, Field Commander of Platoon 4, Field Services Bureau. And today what I'd like to discuss is charitable solicitation. The Winston-Salem Police Department recognizes that this is a prime time for nonprofit youth organizations to be out here raising money for their programs. And being mindful of that, we understand that they utilize a lot of the main thoroughfares within the city to be successful in raising funds. And they're also basically pretty populated locations within the city. One of the things we want them to understand is, first of all, the requirements for charitable solicitation and safety, especially when you're utilizing youth out there in those areas to collect the funds for their programs. First, we'll start out with the requirements. Anyone who wishes to solicit funds for charitable organizations must first complete the notice of intent to solicit within the city of Winston-Salem. Again, to get this form and permit and paperwork, they must go to the city secretary's office located at 104 North Main Street. Once they establish the paperwork and completed it, at that point in time, they're required to display, they'll get their identification cards for solicitation and must be required to display those while soliciting in those on the state roads, and insurance coverage is required. Details on this process are found in City Code 38-61. The city code makes it clear that charitable solicitors are not to enter the roadway under any circumstances to accept donations. Code section 6831 provides that soliciting on state roads for charitable contributions, soliciting on state roads for charitable contributions is permitted provided the following requirements are met and the solicitor complies with North Carolina General Statute 20-175, which states basically for pedestrian soliciting rides, employment, business or funds upon highways or streets. As well as the requirements, we also want to make sure that the people soliciting are safe in those areas. The City Code 38-2, restriction of activity on median, states prohibiting conduct. The following acts are prohibiting while soliciting on center medians. Soliciting shall be limited to the shoulder and center median only. Soliciting in the main travel portion of the roadway is prohibited. Stepping off on the center roadway and median and stand, sit, or walk in the roadway is also prohibited. To deliver or receive any tangible item to or from any occupant other than the driver or a person on the driver's side of the vehicle that is on that roadway is also prohibited. Again, to further protect the participants, Code Section 38-61 also provides that it is unlawful to engage or allow solicitation on center median by persons under the age of 14. The Winston-Salem Police Department supports these organizations and their foundations in the efforts that they require to establish the funds needed. But we also want to ensure the safety of the youth that are involved in that. First and foremost, that's paramount. I've got copies of this presentation as well as the complete notice of intent to solicit with the city of Winston-Salem. And again, I've only touched base on a few points regarding the city code of section 6831. So I've also attached that. If you guys want to receive that afterwards, feel free to step forward and you can get a copy of that, kind of enlighten you further. At this point in time, are there any questions pertaining to that? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call Chief Thompson back up for the closing statements. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the Winston-Salem Police Department?
You said that the department will be providing security for the shelter. What would be the hours? How many officers kind of deal with that?
We don't give deployment numbers, but what I will tell you is that it will be from the time the shelter actually opens to receive public in until the operation is ended. Any other questions? If no other questions, then that concludes the September 2018 Public Safety Press Conference. I'd also like to remind you that our next conference will be held October 10th, 2018 at 10 a.m. Thank you, and please stay safe.